The darkness of space had never felt so heavy. Pressed his clawed hands against the cold metal of his console and stared at the screen. 11 days. For 11 days he had sent distress signals into the void. For 11 days nothing had answered. His violet scales, once bright and healthy, had faded to a pale lavender. He had not slept properly since the convoy stopped moving. Behind him, the bridge of the gentle dawn was quiet. Too quiet. The other crew members moved like ghosts, checking systems that did not need checking, avoiding eye contact with each other. Everyone knew the truth. Everyone was afraid to say it out loud. Captain entered the bridge with slow, careful steps. She was old now, her proud crest drooping with age and exhaustion. Once, she had commanded warships in the great conflicts of the Empire. Now, she led a broken convoy of refugees running from death. "Any response?" she asked. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. Shook his head. "Nothing, Captain. I sent messages to the Galactic Council. They marked our sector as non-priority. I contacted the fleet. They said they are engaged elsewhere. I reached out to they claimed jurisdiction issues." He paused, his throat tight. "No one is coming." Closed all 4 of her eyes. She stood very still for a long moment and could see the weight of 47 ships pressing down on her shoulders. 47 ships filled with families, children, elders, the last survivors of 3 colony worlds that they had burned to ash. "How long until they find us?" she asked. "The scouts reported ships at the edge of the system 2 days ago. They are circling, waiting," pulled up a display showing the asteroid field around them. "We are hidden for now, but our engine signatures are leaking. They will find us within days, maybe hours." Through the main viewport could see the other ships of the convoy. Civilian transports, most of them. Old freighters meant for carrying goods, not people. They were packed beyond capacity. Families slept in cargo holds. Children played in corridors designed for machinery. These ships were never meant for this. Station floated below them, a crumbling waypoint that had been abandoned decades ago. Its systems barely worked. Its shields were gone. It offered no protection, only a place to hide while they waited for rescue that would never come. "How many weapons do we have?" asked. 19 volunteers with personal firearms, 1 automated turret that has not been serviced in 20 years. His voice was bitter. "They have 60 warships." The captain walked to the viewport and placed her hand against the glass. Out there, in the ships she could see, were 12,000 souls, mothers holding bobbies, old men telling stories too, young couples who had dreamed of building new lives on distant worlds. They did not take prisoners. Everyone knew this. They were raiders, slavers, destroyers. They swept through the outer rim like a plague, burning everything they touched. When they came for the colonies, they had given no warning. They simply appeared and began killing. "Signal Elder Bora on the station," said quietly. "Tell him to gather whatever defenders we have. We will not win, but we will not make it easy for them." Sent the message, his hands shaking slightly. On station, Elder Bora received the communication in the main control room. He was ancient even by standards, his scales and cracked, his movements slow and painful. But his mind was still sharp, and his heart still burned with the stubborn fire of his people. He looked at the 19 volunteers who had gathered before him. Some were young, barely adults. Others were old like him, veterans of forgotten wars. All of them were afraid. All of them had chosen to stand anyway. "We cannot defeat them," Bora said honestly. "When they come, they will break through our defenses in minutes, but our ancestors faced extinction and survived. Our history is written in blood and courage." He straightened his bent spine as much as he could. "If we must die, we will die standing." The volunteers nodded. A young female named, barely old enough to hold a weapon, wiped tears from her eyes but did not run. An old soldier named checked his ancient rifle for the 100th time, his hands steady despite his age. They positioned themselves at the airlocks and waited. Back on the gentle dawn, sat alone at his station as night cycle fell across the convoy. The other crew members had gone to be with their families. Captain had retired to her quarters to write final letters. The ship was silent except for the hum of failing systems. Stared at his console and made a decision. He opened a new broadcast channel. Not a distress signal this time, something else. A message, a record. If no one was coming to save them, at least someone should know they had existed. "This is communications officer of the refugee convoy," he began, his voice rough with emotion. "I am sending this message to anyone who might hear it. We are stranded at station in the outer rim. Raiders are coming and we cannot stop them." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "We have 12,000 people in our convoy, families, children, elders. We fled our homes when they came. We traveled for weeks through dangerous space, hopping to find safety. We sent distress calls to everyone we could reach. The Galactic Council said we were not a priority. The Great Fleet said they were busy. Everyone had reasons. Everyone had excuses." His voice cracked, but he continued. "I want someone to remember us. We were not warriors. We were farmers and teachers and builders. We had dreams and hopes and plans. The children on these ships had never seen war before they came. They do not understand why people want to hurt them. I do not understand either." Tears ran down his violet scales. "We asked for help. We begged for help. The galaxy heard us and did nothing. So this is our final message. Remember the of station. Remember that we lived. Remember that we called out into the darkness and the darkness answered with silence." He ended the transmission and sat in the quiet. Far away, crossing the vast emptiness of space, his words traveled into the void. Did not know if anyone would hear them. He did not know that a ship was already moving, already burning through space at impossible speeds. He only knew that he was tired and scared and alone. In the darkness outside, they were coming. And no help was coming either. Or so he believed. 14 hours passed like 14 years. Had fallen asleep at his station, his head resting on his arms. Dreams of burning colonies and screaming children filled his mind. When the alarm woke him, he jumped so hard he nearly fell from his chair. The screen was filled with red. "Captain to the bridge," he shouted into the intercom, his voice high with fear. "Captain, please come to the bridge immediately." She arrived within minutes, her uniform wrinkled, her eyes tired but alert. One look at the screen told her everything. 60 signatures, 60 ships. The fleet had dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system, and they were moving toward the convoy like a pack of hungry predators. "Signal all ships," said, her voice steady despite the terror in her hearts. "Tell them to remain calm, tell them." She stopped. What could she tell them? Run. There was nowhere to run. Fight. They had no weapons. Pray. The gods had abandoned them long ago. "Tell them to hold their families close," she finished quietly. Sent the message. Across the convoy, panic began to spread. Mothers gathered their children. Fathers stood at doors with whatever tools they could find. Elders whispered ancient prayers. The ships were filled with the sound of weeping. The lead ship, a massive dreadnought called the Bone Collector, broadcast a message on all frequencies. The voice was cold and cruel, speaking in the common galactic language. "Convoy, this is Commander of the Dominion. Surrender your vessels immediately. Your cargo will be processed. Your people will be distributed. Resistance will be punished with extreme measures. You have 5 minutes to comply." Captain stared at the screen. She thought of her crew, her people, the children who trusted her to keep them safe. She thought of surrender, of what they would do to them. Slavery, torture, death. "No response," she said. Looked at her with wide eyes. "Captain." "No response," she repeated. "We will not beg, we will not surrender, let them come." The 5 minutes passed in silence. The fleet began its approach. 60 ships moved through the asteroid field, their weapons charging, their sensors locked on the helpless convoy. On the bridge of the gentle dawn, watched them come and felt his hope die completely. And then his console made a sound he did not recognize. It was not an alarm. It was not a distress signal. It was something new, something his system had never detected before. A signature had appeared at the far edge of the system, and the readings made no sense. "What is that?" whispered. He ran the scan again. The numbers were wrong. The mass was wrong. The energy readings were impossible. Something had dropped out of faster-than-light travel at a velocity that should have destroyed any ship in existence. "Captain," he said, his voice shaking, "there is another ship." Turned from the viewport. "Reinforcements." "No, the signature is different. I have never seen anything like this." His claws danced across his console, pulling up every bit of data he could find. "It is moving toward us, fast, very fast." Before she could respond, a new broadcast filled the bridge. Audio only, crackling with static, speaking in accented galactic common. "This is the UNSF 7th Fleet, Earth United Naval Forces. We have received your distress signal. Refugee convoy, this is Commander Park Jinnah. Hold your position. Help has arrived." Felt his heart stop. Humans. Everyone in the galaxy knew about humans, of course. They were a young species from a small blue planet called Earth. They had only been traveling between stars for about 200 years. By galactic standards, they were children, primitive, weak. The Council tolerated them, but no one took them seriously. They had never dealt with humans directly. They were too far away, too unimportant. Just another minor species struggling to survive in a galaxy that did not care about them. But now a human ship was here, one ship against 60 warships. The commander laughed across the open channel. "Human vessel, you are in territory. This prey belongs to us. Leave now or you will be destroyed along with them." Commander Park's voice came back, calm and clear. "Negative. These refugees are under human protection. You have 60 seconds to withdraw your fleet." 60 seconds. One ship against 60. It was madness. They came into visual range and saw a human warship for the first time. It was not beautiful. Ships were elegant, designed with flowing lines and graceful curves. Cruisers gleamed like jewels. Even vessels had a certain savage beauty. The human ship was none of these things. It was ugly, angular, brutal. Every surface was covered with armor plates and weapon mounts. It bristled with guns and missile launchers and things could not identify. It looked like someone had taken a block of metal and attached every weapon they could find to it. It looked like something that had been built by people who expected everything in the universe to try to kill them. The 60 seconds passed. "Human vessel," the commander said, "you have made your choice. Destroy them." 12 ships opened fire simultaneously. Missiles and plasma bolts streaked across space toward enough firepower to crack a small moon. Watched in horror, certain that the human ship would be torn apart. The weapons hit. Fire and light consumed the explosion was massive, blinding. Looked away, his heart's heavy with despair. They had come so close. Someone had finally answered their call and now they were gone. But when he looked back at his screen, there was still there. Its shields, strange layered things that had never seen before, had absorbed the entire attack. The ship was damaged, yes, smoking, but it was alive. And it was angry. "All hands," Commander Park's voice was quiet, almost soft. "Weapons free." They began to move, not drift, not cruise. It moved like a predator, accelerating at a rate that made tactical computer display error messages. It should have been impossible. No ship that heavily armored should be able to move that fast. Then it started shooting. Rail guns fired, sending metal projectiles through space at incredible speeds. They punched through hulls like they were made of paper. Plasma lances cut burning lines across the enemy formation. Missiles launched in swarms, each one finding a target. In the first 4 minutes, 9 ships were destroyed. Captain stood at the viewport, her mouth open, all four eyes wide with shock. She had served in 3 wars. She had seen the great fleets of the Galactic Council in action. She had never witnessed anything like this. One ship, one human ship, fighting 60 enemies to save strangers it had never met. On the bridge of the gentle dawn began to cry, but this time the tears were not from despair. They were from hope. The battle was chaos and fire and death. Commander Park Jinnah stood at the center of her bridge, her feet planted wide, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Around her, her crew worked with calm efficiency. Alarms screamed. Damage reports flooded in. The ship shook with every hit it took, but no one panicked. No one ran. They had trained for this. They had been born for this. "Lieutenant, status on forward guns," Park said. A young woman with short black hair and steady hands checked her console. "Rail guns 1 through 4 operational. Plasma lance 3 is overheating. Missile tubes 7 and 8 are empty. Reload 7 and 8. Tell engineering to cool down lance 3 manually if they have to." "Yes, Commander." The twisted in space, dodging a barrage of missiles while returning fire with everything it had. 2 more enemy ships exploded, their hulls torn apart by rail gun rounds. A 3rd ship, hit by a plasma lance, broke in half and drifted into the asteroid field. But they were fighting back hard. Park watched her shield display drop from 70% to 60 to 50. The outer layer failed. Then the second layer. The ship was taking real damage now, impacts shaking the hull, fires breaking out in lower decks. "Ensign," she called out, "signal the refugee convoy. Tell them to begin FTL jump preparations. Calculate a safe route to Nova Sanctuary." Barely 20 years old, nodded quickly. "Commander, our navigation computer estimates they need at least 40 minutes to charge their engines." "Then we hold for 40 minutes. 40 minutes, against 50 remaining ships, with shields failing and ammunition running low." Park allowed herself a small smile. She had faced worse odds in training simulations. Of course, in training, you could restart when you died. Today there would be no restart. On the gentle dawn, Captain watched the battle unfold with a mixture of awe and terror. The human ship moved through the formation like a dancer, if dancers carried enough weapons to destroy a small planet. It was taking terrible damage. Fires burned across its hull. Pieces of armor floated away into space, but it kept fighting. "Why are they doing this?" asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "They do not know us. We have nothing to offer them. Why would they die for strangers?" Did not have an answer. He was too busy watching the battle, his claws gripping his console so hard they left marks in the metal. The commander, growing frustrated, ordered his ships to concentrate fire on the 20 vessels turned their weapons on the human ship at once. The barrage was overwhelming, wave after wave of missiles and plasma bolts and kinetic rounds. The 3rd shield layer failed, then the 4th, the 5th took damage. Inside the human ship, corridors filled with smoke. Crew members fought fires with extinguishers while their friends died beside them. Medical teams rushed to help the wounded, stepping over bodies that could not be saved. The ship groaned and screamed like a living thing in pain. Commander Park received a report that made her stomach tighten. 83 dead, 200 wounded, main engineering was on fire. The FTL drive was damaged beyond repair. They would not be leaving this place. "Commander," Lieutenant said quietly, "we cannot survive another concentrated attack like that." Park nodded. She had known this was a one-way mission from the moment she gave the order to engage. Her command had asked her to assess the situation and report back. Instead, she had chosen to fight. She did not regret it. "How long until the convoy can jump?" 22 minutes, Commander." 22 minutes, an eternity in combat. Park looked at her crew. They were young, most of them, fresh from the academy. They had families back on Earth. parents who would mourn them, lovers who would never see them again, children who would grow up without fathers and mothers. They were also the finest people she had ever known. "Listen to me," she said, her voice carrying across the bridge. "I know you are scared, I know you are tired, but out there in those ships are 12,000 people who have no one else, children who have never hurt anyone, families who just want to live. They called for help and no one answered. No one except us." She paused, letting her words sink in. "I cannot promise we will survive this. I cannot promise anything except that what we do today matters. Every minute we hold the line is another minute for them to escape. Every shot we fire is another chance for those children to see tomorrow." Lieutenant wiped her eyes and squared her shoulders. Ensign gripped his console and nodded firmly. Across the bridge, exhausted and wounded crew members found new strength. "Humans do not leave people behind," Park said. "Humans do not ignore cries for help. This is who we are. This is what we do. Now let us show these what that means." The bridge erupted in cheers. Outside, they regrouped for another attack. 43 ships remained, still more than enough to destroy the battered human vessel. Their commander, furious at his losses, ordered a final assault. "Every weapon, every ship, end this now." The turn to face them. Its shields were nearly gone. Its armor was cracked and burning. Half its weapons were destroyed or empty. By any reasonable measure, the battle was lost. But the humans had never been reasonable. "All hands," Commander Park said calmly. "This is our finest hour, make it count." They charged directly into the heart of the fleet. Back on the Gentle Dawn, watched in stunned silence. The human ship was attacking, not defending, not retreating, attacking. One broken vessel against 43 enemy warships, and it was charging forward like it believed it could win. "They are insane," Captain breathed. "They are completely insane." But there was admiration in her voice, and something else, something that felt like faith. They tore through the formation, firing in all directions. Rail gun rounds punched through hulls. Plasma lances cut ships in half. At point-blank range, the human weapons were devastating, and they could not concentrate their fire without hitting their own vessels. 8 more ships died in 3 minutes. There was dying too. Its last shield layer collapsed. Armor plates tore away under enemy fire. The ship was bleeding atmosphere from a dozen wounds, but it kept moving. It kept fighting. 15 minutes to convoy jump. Commander Park spat blood from a cut on her lip and checked her tactical display. 35 enemy ships remaining. Her own ship was held together by prayers and stubbornness. "What do we have left?" 2 rail guns, 1 plasma lance, 17 missiles. Park smiled grimly. "Then we use every single one." The battle raged on. And somewhere in the chaos, the refugee convoy continued to charge their engines, 1 minute closer to freedom with every passing moment. The was burning. Commander Park Jinnah stood on a bridge filled with smoke and fire. The main lights had failed 10 minutes ago, replaced by the red glow of emergency systems. Half her crew was dead or wounded. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. The ship shuddered with every breath, like a wounded animal fighting to stay alive. But they were still fighting. "Status report," Park demanded, her voice hoarse from shouting over alarms. Lieutenant looked up from her console. Her face was covered in soot and blood ran from a cut on her forehead. 34 enemy ships destroyed, 26 remaining. Our weapons are nearly depleted. Rail gun 1 is jammed. The plasma lance is offline. We have 3 missiles left. 3 missiles? Against 26 warships. Park nodded slowly. She looked at the tactical display, watching the ships circle her wounded vessel like vultures. They were more cautious now. The human ship had taught them respect, but they still outnumbered her, and they knew she could not last much longer. "How long until the convoy can jump?" she asked. Ensign checked his console with shaking hands. 4 minutes, Commander. 4 minutes and they will be clear. 4 minutes, an eternity. Outside, the commander stared at the burning human ship with a mixture of hatred and something he had not felt in years, fear. He had lost 34 vessels, 34 ships destroyed by a single enemy. His crew was terrified. His formation was in chaos. One human ship had done this. "All vessels," he broadcast to his fleet, "concentrate fire. Destroy that ship now." The remaining vessels turned their weapons on and fired everything they had. Inside the human ship, Commander Park grabbed a railing as the impacts nearly threw her from her feet. The deck buckled beneath her. A support beam crashed down, missing her by inches. All around her, crew members screamed as consoles exploded and fire spread. "Hull breach, decks 7 through 12, someone shouted. "Fire suppression offline in sections 4 and 6. Medical reports 30 more casualties." Park ignored the chaos and focused on her display. 3 minutes. The convoy needed 3 more minutes. She said, her voice steady despite everything, "Send a message to the convoy. Tell them not to wait for us. The moment their drives are ready, they jump. No delays, no heroics, they run." The young ensign looked at her with tears in his eyes. "Commander." "That is an order, ensign." He nodded and sent the message. On the gentle dawn, Captain received the transmission and felt her heart's break. She watched on her screen, saw the fires burning across its hull, saw the pieces of armor floating away into space. The human ship was dying and everyone knew it. But it was still placing itself between and the convoy. It was still fighting to buy them time. 2 minutes to jump, reported, his voice choked with emotion. "Captain, we could stay, we could try to help them." Shook her head slowly. "No, we cannot fight those ships. If we stay, we die and their sacrifice means nothing." She placed her hand against the viewport, watching the distant battle. "The best way to honor them is to survive, to live, to make sure the galaxy knows what they did here." The convoy waited in agonized silence as the final seconds ticked away. Commander Park watched her ship die around her. The bridge was a ruin now, filled with smoke and bodies and sparking wreckage. Only a handful of crew remained at their stations, refusing to abandon their posts even as the ship fell apart. 1 minute to convoy jump, reported. "Commander, we have done it. They are going to make it." Park smiled. It was a genuine smile, tired but warm. "Yes, they are." The commander, seeing his prey about to escape, screamed orders at his fleet. "Ignore the human ship. Target the convoy. Do not let them escape." 15 vessels turned away from and raced toward the refugee ships. Park saw them moving and made her decision instantly. "Helm full power to engines. Intercept course." The helm officer, a young man named who had been at his post for 6 hours straight, looked at her with exhausted eyes. "Commander, the engines are barely functional. If we push them harder, they will explode." "Then we explode in front of those ships. Move." The lurched forward, its damaged engines screaming in protest. It threw itself into the path of the vessels, blocking their route to the convoy. The enemy ships were forced to slow down, to go around, to waste precious seconds. 30 seconds to jump. The opened fire at point-blank range. Armor plates shattered. Hull sections collapsed. The ship began to break apart, pieces spinning away into the void. On the bridge, Commander Park fell as the deck gave way beneath her. She landed hard, pain shooting through her side, and looked up to see the ceiling collapsing. Lieutenant threw herself over her commander, shielding her with her own body as debris rained down. 20 seconds. "Convoy is initiating jump sequence," reported from somewhere in the smoke. His console had exploded, but he was reading data from a portable device. "They are going to make it. Commander, they are going to make it." Park pushed herself up, ignoring the blood running down her face. Through the broken viewport, she could see the refugee ships beginning to glow with FTL energy. 10 seconds. The commander watched in helpless fury as his prey slipped away. He ordered his ships to fire on the convoy, but there was still in the way, still blocking their shots, still refusing to die. 5 seconds. Jump successful. His voice came over the emergency channel, transmitted to thee in their final moments. Commander Park, the convoy has jumped. All 47 ships, they are safe. Thank you, thank you. Park heard the message and felt peace wash over her. 0. The refugee convoy vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving the system behind forever. 12,000 souls saved. The commander stared at empty space where his prey had been. Then he turned his attention to the broken human ship. "Destroy them," he said quietly. "Leave nothing." But before his ships could fire, something unexpected happened. They stopped fighting. For a long moment, everything was still. The human ship drifted in space, burning and broken, surrounded by enemy vessels. It should have been over. Then Commander Park's voice came over the open channel, weak but clear. "Fleet, the refugees are gone. You have lost your prey. Now you have a choice. You can destroy us. You can claim victory over a single damaged ship, or you can leave. Take your surviving vessels and go. Lick your wounds. Tell your superiors that one human ship killed half your fleet." She paused, coughing. "Either way, we have won. Those people are safe, and the galaxy will know what happened here today. The galaxy will know that when no one else would help, the humans came." Silence. The commander looked at the burning human ship, then at his own damaged fleet. 26 ships remained, half his force destroyed by a single enemy. If he returned home with this defeat, questions would be asked, blame would be assigned. But if he claimed he had driven off a massive human fleet, if he told a different story. "All vessels," he said slowly, "withdraw, we are leaving." One by one, the ships turned and flew away. They did not look back. On the ruined bridge of the Commander Park watched them go. Then she slumped against a broken console and allowed herself to cry. They had done it. They had actually done it. And 83 of her crew would never go home. 3 months had passed since the battle at Station. The refugee convoy had reached Nova Sanctuary, a massive neutral station far from space. 12,000 souls had found safety within its walls, given food and shelter and medical care by a coalition of species who had heard about their escape. The story had spread across the galaxy like fire. One human ship, 60 warships, a convoy of helpless refugees. It was the kind of tale that should have been legend, something told around campfires by primitive species who still believed in heroes. But it was real. It had happened, and the galaxy could not stop talking about it. Stood in the main plaza of Nova Sanctuary, watching children play in the artificial sunlight. Children, laughing and running and chasing each other like there had never been a war. Many of them did not remember the convoy, did not remember the fear. They only knew that they were safe now. They did not know how close they had come to death. Captain approached him from behind, her step slow but steady. She looked better now, her crest beginning to recover its proud stance. 3 months of rest and safety had done wonders for her body, but her eyes still carried the weight of what she had seen. "Captain," he bowed respectfully, "the reporters are asking for more interviews." "Let them wait, I came to tell you something." She stood beside him, watching the children play. "The has arrived. They completed emergency repairs and limped their way here. Took them 2 months at reduced speed." Felt his heart skip. They survived. "Barely. The ship is being decommissioned, too damaged to repair properly, but most of the crew made it." Paused. "Commander Park is asking to meet with us, all of us. The survivors, the convoy leaders, everyone." An hour later, stood in a crowded hall with hundreds of his fellow refugees. Captain was there, along with Elder Bora, who had survived the siege despite his age. The young volunteer who had been ready to die defending the station stood near the front with tears already in her eyes. The doors opened, and the humans entered. Commander Park Jinnah walked with a slight limp now, a permanent reminder of the battle. A scar ran across her forehead, visible even after months of healing. She wore her dress uniform, decorated with medals that seemed too small for what she had done. Behind her came the surviving crew of the lieutenant, one arm in a sling, ensign who had lost an eye to shrapnel, the helm officer who had pushed the engines past their breaking point, and dozens more, each carrying their own scars. They had lost 83 of their crew at station, 83 humans who would never go home. The hall fell silent as Commander Park reached the front. She looked out at the sea of faces, at the people she had nearly died to save, and her stern expression softened. "I am Commander Park Jinnah of the UNSF," she said. "I wanted to meet all of you in person. I wanted to see the faces of the people we fought for." Elder Bora stepped forward, his ancient body trembling with emotion. "Commander, on behalf of every in this room, I must ask a question that has haunted us for 3 months." His voice cracked. "Why? Why did you come? We have nothing to offer you. We are not your allies. We had never even met your species. Why did you risk everything for strangers?" The room held its breath. Park was quiet for a moment, then she spoke. "When I was young, my grandmother told me a story. During a great disaster on our world, a village was trapped by floods. The water kept rising. No help was coming. The people were certain they would die." She paused. Then strangers appeared, people from a distant place who had heard about the village and traveled for days to reach them. They pulled people from the water. They carried children on their backs. They saved lives. When the village leader asked why they had come, the strangers said something my grandmother never forgot. Park looked directly at Elder Bora. "They said, 'We came because you called for help, and we could not pretend we did not hear.'" The silence in the hall was absolute. "On Earth, we have lived through terrible times, wars, famines, disasters. We have learned that survival is not guaranteed. We have learned that the universe does not care whether we live or die." Park's voice grew stronger. "But we have also learned something else. We have learned that the only thing that makes existence bearable is knowing that someone somewhere will answer when we call." She straightened her shoulders, despite the pain it caused. "We received your distress signal 18 days before the battle. My command asked us to assess the situation and report. We were 4 days away at maximum speed. When we heard Officer's message, his prayer for someone to remember you, we made a decision." She pointed at her crew, at the wounded and soldiers who had followed her into impossible odds. "Every person in my crew agreed. We would not assess and report. We would not leave children to die while we wrote documents. We would go. We would fight. And if we died, we would die doing something that mattered." Felt tears running down his scales. Around him, hundreds have wept openly. "You ask why we came," Park said. "The answer is simple. You called out into the darkness and we could not pretend we did not hear. That is what humans do. That is who we are." Elder Bora walked forward slowly, his old legs unsteady. When he reached Commander Park, he did something no had ever done to a human before. He knelt. "Commander Park Jinnah," he said, his voice carrying across the silent hall, "the people owe you a debt that can never be repaid. You saved our children. You saved our future. From this day forward, humans will be honored among our species as true friends, as family." One by one, others knelt. "Captain," hundreds of people, showing respect to a species they had barely known 3 months ago. Park looked at them with gentle eyes. "Please stand. We do not need your worship, we only need your promise." Bora looked up. "What promise?" "Promise that you will do the same. When someone calls for help, answer. When strangers are in danger, protect them. Do not ask what they can offer you. Do not calculate whether it benefits your people. Just help." She smiled. "If the galaxy is ever going to be worth living in, it needs more people who will do what is right even when it is hard. Be those people. That is how you repay us." The hall erupted in cheers, rushed forward to embrace the human crew, to shake hands and exchange words of gratitude. Walls that had separated species for centuries began to crumble in that single moment. Later that day, found Commander Park standing alone on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. "Commander," he said quietly, "I wanted to thank you personally. My message, the one I sent when I thought no one was listening, you heard it." Park nodded. "I heard it. Your words about children who would never grow up, about the galaxy answering your prayers with silence." She turned to face him. "Those words saved your people. They made my crew willing to die for strangers. Never underestimate the power of a voice crying out for help." Stood beside her, looking at the endless stars. "What happens now?" he asked. "For you, for your crew?" "We go home eventually. I will receive a new command, a new ship." She smiled slightly. "I have already chosen its name. The Gentle Dawn. Your captain gave me permission." Felt his heart swell with emotion. "That is a great honor." "It is a reminder that even in the darkest void, dawn can come." She placed a hand on his shoulder, a human gesture of friendship. "Take care of your people, and remember what we learned here. No one should face the darkness alone." As news of the battle spread across the galaxy, something changed. In refugee camps and besieged colonies, in forgotten outposts and dying stations, people began to whisper a new phrase. When the night was darkest and hope was gone, they would say it to each other like a prayer. "Hold on, the humans might hear you." And somewhere in the endless void, human ships continued their patrol, watching, listening, ready. Because that was what they did. That was who they were. And the stars would remember.